Everybody thinks their opinions are correct. That's what opinions are. But Bill also often talks about how, people laugh at offensive jokes because they know it's true.
And also because when people laugh, they know it's true.
That's what laughter is. If you laugh, it means it's true. If you don't laugh, it means
I'm speaking the truth.
Bill thinks he's a truth-telling sage, no matter what, telling you the hard truths, the politically incorrect, nasty shit that you don't want to know. And he's often very wrong. And sometimes that's kind of dangerous. Like with the vaccine anecdote about the person he may have known, which I guess we are going to talk about, because apparently Bill Maher always talked about this. To quote this 2015 article's headline from ScienceBasedMedicine.org, he's still an anti-vaccine crank after all these years. So much so that he notably tries not to bring it up while talking to a scientist. But his audience and guests already know that he's been an anti-vaccine crank for years, so...
So don't be all too high and mighty there. Because there's certain aspects of science denial that are squarely in the liberal left.
Like?
Oh, really? You want to have that conversation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know one, but
What?
I don't want to get into it.
Okay, fine.
Here's him a decade ago, talking to former Senate Majority Leader and physician Bill Frist about swine flu vaccines.
2 weeks ago, a 30-year-old came into my hospital, perfectly healthy, dead of the swine flu. If he'd had the vaccine, if the vaccine were available, he'd be alive.
That's an anecdotal story.
Okay,
That's
no.
not
Okay,
typical.
okay.
This is not a very serious flu.
Yeah, that anecdotal evidence of yours is bunk, I tell you. Good point, Bill. Anyway, do we also have a clip of Maher mentioning something about the terrible food we all put into our bodies to justify his vaccine skepticism and not say why Americans are so unhealthy?
We didn't used to have all this corn syrup in our bodies, antibiotics. It could be any combination. So I'm a little cautious.
Cool. Anyway, I'm not just going to talk about all the ways in which Bill Maher is wrong about vaccines, or how, to prove his point, he quoted Jonas Salk about live vaccines, and Bill Frist was like, when's that quote from? The 50s? Live vaccines are for things like chickenpox, measles, mumps, those diseases people get more of in communities where kids aren't vaccinated. And it's just kind of irresponsible to have on this anti-vaxxer and spout anecdotal evidence to support it. But again, I'm not here to just be like, Bill is wrong about X or Y, or do a rundown of all the stuff he's wrong about that I think is bad. I could. He once, in a serious manner, said that people who raise mentally disabled children are exactly like him having a dog, which is easy. He's pretty Islamophobic, and not just because he's anti-religion, he really doesn't like Muslims specifically, and not in there's extremism these days kind of way, but in that specific religion is specifically bad and there's something fundamentally wrong with it, despite, much like the vaccine thing, not listening to people who talk to him about it.
It's not us that changed, it's Islam that changed. And that in my lifetime, this culture has really changed. If you look back to when I was 10 or 11, like half a century ago, these cities, Beirut, Damascus, Tehran, Baghdad, these were famous open cities. Beirut was called the Paris of the East.
Despite absorbing information about the region from just decades ago, or hopefully being aware of things like the Golden Age of Islam, he'll just boil it all down to what he really thinks.
They bring that desert stuff.
Oh, okay. But again, I'm not here to just list off his wrong, gross shit. But again, okay, one more. And to really get into it, we need to talk about
Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo.
Milo is a complete fraud who believes in nothing. His goal was to piss people off by saying outlandish things that are also true, but also, I'm just joking. You take everything so seriously, but also feminism is cancer, and so on. If you were duped by Milo after listening to him talk for 5 seconds, you need to have a long think. Much like if you associate with Prager University, you shouldn't be taken seriously. If you associated with Milo or lifted him up in any way, same. But Bill loved Milo. Sure, they disagreed on some things, but he sure does trigger the SJWs. He sure is politically incorrect. He sure is a champion of free speech. And I'm not gonna really show clips of this interview because Milo is really boring and also a blatant liar. He lied throughout it, coyly. And as Maher notes in the interview, he was employed by Steve Bannon and was actually paid by Bannon and billionaires to sneak white nationalism into the zeitgeist. That was his goal. So let's get that man on TV. But anyway, about a day after Milo was on Maher's show, Milo's career took a bit of a turn. It was the beginning of the end for him because of video surfacing in which Milo discusses his belief that men, specifically clergymen, molesting young boys is sort of a good and necessary relationship for the gay experience, a coming-of-age sort of thing. And again, no need to show the clip, but after this happened, Bill Maher discussed Milo's downfall, taking credit for it, claiming, "Then we had Milo on, despite the fact that many people said, 'Oh, how dare you give a platform to this man?' What I think people saw was an emotionally needy Ann Coulter wannabe, trying to make a buck off of the left's propensity for outrage. And by the end of the weekend, by dinner time Monday, he's dropped as a speaker at CPAC. Then he's dropped by Breitbart, and his book deal falls through. As I say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. You're welcome." Do we have a clip or two of disinfectant?
Stop taking the bait, liberals. The fact that they all freaked out
Wasn't it
about this
pathetic?
little impish British you have the potential to morph. I mean, you remind me like of a young, gay, alive Christopher Hitchens.
Ann Coulter wannabe, young gay Christopher Hitchens, you know, whatever. Just basking in the sunlight. You did it, Bill. You took him down. Hell yeah. Wait, also, don't you hate cancel culture, but you're praising yourself for getting Milo canceled? All right, we'll get into that actually later. Interesting that the thing that took Milo down, which Bill Maher is praising himself for, was about adults having sex with young boys. Something Bill Maher thinks is fine, too.
Mary Kay Letourneau, the teacher from Seattle, who is in jail because she is in love. That's how I view it. I admit that it's unorthodox. She is 35, the boy is 14.
That's him on Politically Incorrect in 1998, saying adult male teacher sex with child bad, adult female teacher sex with child good, because he wanted to f*** his teachers and stuff. It's a lazy scumbag opinion that he shares with Milo, as well as himself years later, as he discusses in this Playboy interview. It's especially interesting because, much like all of his awful opinions based on nothing, he was explained why that's actually f***ed up, Bill, very eloquently and succinctly in 1998 by Henry Rollins.
How can a woman rape a man?
I think that an older woman can manipulate a young kid, and I don't think it's really healthy. I don't think it's healthy for a kid who's going to be 14 with 2 kids out in the world. I think those children will grow up fairly damaged. I think that kid's going to grow up fairly damaged.
So you're on her side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, correct. But Bill just shrugs, well, you know, I'll still have this opinion in 10 years or whatever. He's a marketplace of ideas man, but he doesn't actually care about it. He's not open to it. He's like a dumber, more alive Christopher Hitchens, who was so stubborn that he didn't think waterboarding was torture until he was waterboarded for 17 seconds. But Bill just really likes being in the politically incorrect club, regardless of how actually incorrect he is. It's why he'll have on Steve Bannon and gush over him, because...
And I know that, you know, you had a little event there at the New Yorker. They had a festival. In fact, I want to read Malcolm Gladwell's quote, because they were going to interview you, and then you were disinvited. I've been disinvited many times, by the way. It's a good club.
Yes, what a cool club to be in. The right-wing nationalist propagandist club. And Bill knows who Bannon is. He hates Donald Trump and thinks he's a fascist. He thinks fascism is on the rise. He's worried Donald Trump won't even leave office. Yet...
But I'm going to say to you what I always say to conservatives when they come here. First of all, thank you. I appreciate it, and it says volumes why the Republicans are in power and we have none.
So I guess what I mean to say is, this concludes our only installment of our new segment. It's weird to praise a person you know is a fascist propagandist for taking the opportunity to speak to a wide audience on a prestigious media network. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Here's the evergreen end plate to ask you to like and subscribe. It's any day of the year where you are.